The comedian Helen Lederer has been a constant, hasn't she, on our screen since the 1980s, playing iconic sketch characters like the girl at the bar in Naked Video. Do you remember that one? And a fan favourite, Katrina from Absolutely Fabulous. Now she's released her memoir, Not That I'm Bitter, and she joins us on the programme to tell us what you're not bitter about. Helen, morning.
Good morning, Connie. Lovely to speak to you. And is it sunny in Glasgow?
Well, I'm actually in Edinburgh this morning, and I'm peering out the window, and no, it's a little bit overcast actually. It was beautiful on Saturday, annoyingly.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm. Always good to get the weather check. Oh, yeah, Scotland. So, yeah, I do like Scotland. I have many memories of Edinburgh. In fact, I did a lot of the Edinburgh festivals, and there was one particular one I did where I'd just done Naked Video with, as you rightly say, Girl at the Bar. I didn't actually have a name, even though I did just Girl at the Bar, which is fine. That was before...
Good enough name as any.
That was before Bridget Jones. That was about 10 years before Bridget Jones. Women sort of talking about themselves, hopefully in a engaging manner. And then the reviews I got at the Fringe, that yes, it's all in the memoir. But you won't have had a chance to even look at the memoir, lovely Connie.
No, but do you know what, though?
How will we manage?
Do you know what I think's been really interesting, right? Because I've been reading a couple of articles with people who've interviewed you and spoke to you in the past. And I found it really fascinating because one thing that comes out loud and clear is your energy, Helen, the way that people talk about, the way that you sparkle when they talk to you. And we hear this a lot from people who like to be on stage, but I loved that, and I wondered what that energy and how that energy has served you over the years, and how you sort of try and magic that through the book.
No, that's an interesting question, isn't it, about energy? Because we can sometimes, when people have said about the book being alarmingly honest, I kind of think, that's not a compliment. That's kind of, so in terms of kind of reflecting back about how we are to other people, particularly in the book, when, women comedians were not that usual in numbers anyway at that point. I've always reflected that my energy can alarm people, or there are certain people that you think aren't quite in your tribe. So the gift of being older, and you have to look for the gifts of being older, is to just look back and go, well, that is how I was. And I do feel silences, and it isn't all plain sailing, but I just kind of keep cracking on. So I'm trying to reflect that I didn't get what I thought I wanted, which was the sitcom that lovely Miranda got. Hugely jealous of her in my 40s. Mm-hmm. But it's okay. I have been busy. So maybe the energy, I do have energy. I try and keep it positive, but it can go a bit dark at times. But then, and the questions that people have asked about, because the book's only just gone out, is they do say, is it true that all comedians are very dark and miserable? I don't think I answered that one. I think I have my up days. Somebody said, and Helen, do you have any shame? That was quite an interesting question I got from someone. And I was thinking, should I have? And are you angry? I thought, well, should I be? I don't know. I really wanted the book to make people laugh. But obviously that has to be the truth. In order to laugh, you have to be authentic. So I had to put the kind of not pretty bits in as well. But I want the reader to know that if they turn the page, there's an upbeat narrative of things that happen. Because I do find, and what do you, Connie, do you find certain things funny and hysterical? Because I suspect you might do.
Do you know what I found really interesting, right? Even taking away the comedy from this, because the best thing about this job for me is I just get to chat to folk, right? That's what I love to do, just get to have a wee conversation. And one thing that I think was clear from when you were saying there that you wanted some people to laugh, and then that question came up about shame, there was quite a lot of difficult conversations or difficult experiences that you were describing. For example, like when you found yourself in certain situations where you thought, right, I might have to have sex with someone here that I don't want to in a work environment, but you were so desperate to make sure that you got that thing that you thought you wanted, that you were put in a situation. And I guess when we reflect on things like this and we put ourselves and our whole self into books like this, sometimes it can leave us open, I guess, to people then psychoanalyzing things at the past that maybe we've thought, that was that, but we've not fully reflected on. What's that been like, and has that been the case?
Well, that's really interesting, the way you quite understandably frame your understanding of the content and the question. Whereas like when I was writing it, I didn't write it with that in mind, that I was looking back at situations that and a time. I mean, you're young. I mean, 1980s and 1990s, well, there was, people in positions of power in those days, there was no risk of losing your job or anything like that. And so the conduct was very different. So there's no kind of morality or blame. I just I was just looking at myself thinking, how did I get into that situation? And I think a lot of it is management. But if we look at those anecdotes through the eyes of being now, then obviously these certain questions that you understandably have asked would occur. But if one talks to other people of my age, there's a mixture of feminism, of women taking the initiative. Is that disapproved of? There's so many questions, and I'm not brainy enough to be the oracle on right or wrong behaviour. I suppose I just am a truthful person, and there isn't any. I hope I'm very respectful about other people and engagement, but it has actually, yes, you're absolutely right. It has engendered some questions in a debate. And so my job is to steer people back to look at how we are now and how we were then. And, we can learn. It's a little bit of history through my eyes, hopefully not fibbing too much or embellishing.
And you're spot on. It's about you explaining the experience you had, and I guess no one's got the right to sort of invalidate that or say you should have done this or you should have done that. What I think's really interesting, and you said it just a couple of minutes ago about this idea of I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, whether that be the sitcom or I guess whatever that would then bring. What is it you thought that, or what is it that you were desperate to get from that?
Well, I think it's interesting when we all kind of look back and you go, I was always a kind of writer-performer person, even age 10. I mean, I knew that was what I wanted to do, which sounds so precocious now. So I was kind of split between being told not to show off and sort of it is quite difficult to push yourself out there. So it goes against the grain. So there's a kind of split of saying you're a comedian and then going, but am I a comedian? Is that boastful? And will people hate me for thinking that I'm even funny? And how dare I even suggest I'm funny to people, all that. So I suppose I'm looking at growing up at a time when there's a conflict in, wanting to kind of fulfill your urge to just write and be funny, to whether that is not that's not quite seemly. But I wanted to do it enough when I was young, in my 30s. I went to drama school late, 27, that's very late. So, and then I thought that I would write and have a sitcom, but just because I thought that would be the landscape. But the point of the thing is that didn't happen, and it's okay not to get what you think you want. It really is. And a lot of us don't, because I didn't. But I did sulk for a bit. So I just kind of look at that. I just look at, but hopefully with humour. I mean, not bitterness, hence the title, not that I'm bitter. There's an ironic flavour of the title, I'm hoping. Because who of all of us does get what we want when we think we want it? It really isn't a catastrophe if you don't get that particular job, because something else will happen. And it's quite good not being a star, because then you were there. I think one of the articles says more interesting, I was just there at that time, observing and jumping in and being grateful for jobs and trying my own stuff at the same time.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Do you think that this book in particular, right, and where you are now, it's a life more interesting, really, and maybe you've learned more because you didn't get that thing that you wanted?
Yes, I think because in fact, I might have got it and I've been in the A team. I mean, people are nicer to you when you're more famous. That's true. But then I've observed that, so it doesn't really. I've kind of knocked around in the same capacity for 40 years, being in the track I'm in. And maybe there's some sense to that because it gives me more freedom. Am I protesting too much? But, to do my own thing. If I was really, really famous or like a royal person or something, then you couldn't do anything. Whereas I've been able to, and they didn't have mentors in those days, or that was a word that was not used. So setting up Comedy Women in Print, let's say, I am saying it, was an attempt to put something there to encourage other witty women writers to become published. So that at least there's something when I pop my clogs. I did do something practical as well.
And that's it, isn't it? When you can say, right, okay, yes, I've done something practical. I've had fun. I've had experiences. I've had learnings. When you look back at all the names, let's put that in inverted commas, that you've worked alongside, the things that you've been part of, because it's actually quite remarkable when you look back at that. When I was just reading up about the stuff that you've done as well, what do you think Helen now has taken from that? Because it's just published and I'm just starting to tour places and festivals. And I did this little film in case quite understandably somebody wouldn't know who the heck I was, of little roles. So I'm kind of learning how to express this so that it communicates and lands in the way I'd like, so that it isn't that I'm denying it, but I'm not, again, being boastful. It's just trying to describe what this life has been like as truthfully as possible. So I guess there were about 6 years when I really, really was busy. I didn't even have time to wash my pants, I remember at one time. I was just going from job to job to job. And that was the 80s, when there was money and people were making TV pilots that were rubbish, but nobody questioned it. You know what I mean? And Harry did the loads of money. It was a different era. And you can't go backwards. And I think the younger women now are amazingly confident and bold and driving their, writing, producing, doing it all. It's a different time, isn't it? But I'm not a complacent person, as I say. So, it's good to look back and think I did all that. And then to look to the present now and go, these are very, very different times. And it's good that, that voices are heard, But I don't want to sound a bit dull and banging a drum either, because essentially I want people to laugh when they read the book or get the narrative tone. That's really my hope, that one will get the irony and the laughs, as well as the other stuff. Well, if you want to do that, you need to get the book. It's called Not That I'm Bitter, and it's out now. Thank you for that, Helen.